Okay, real talk. Could you actually pack up, leave the States, and live on a tropical island for less than you're spending on rent right now? Like actually wake up every morning in paradise without needing to be some millionaire? Picture it. Palm trees lining the road, water so clear it barely looks real, and some of the most beautiful islands on the planet, basically, in your backyard. That's the Philippines. And sure, millions of people fly in every year just to vacation here. But that's not really the question I wanted to answer. I wanted to know, what's it actually like to live here? Not a 5-star resort, not a 7-day trip you're already dreading the end of. I mean, actually build a life here. What would it cost you? Where would you even live? And honestly, is it really as good as it looks in everyone's Instagram photos? Well, that kind of depends on what you consider paradise. Because to get why so many people daydream about moving here, you first need to understand just how different life actually is depending on where you land. The Philippines isn't one place, it's over 7,000 islands. So your version of life here can look like almost anything you want. You could be smack in the middle of a massive city, you could settle in near the beach, or you could disappear onto some tiny island where it's just you, palm trees, and ocean for as far as you can see. And here's a big one for Americans specifically. English is spoken pretty much everywhere. So ordering food, finding an apartment, just talking to people, and figuring life out day to day, way less of a headache than in a lot of other countries you might move to. But honestly, the lifestyle is really what sells people. Warm weather, beaches that don't look edited, huge cities right next to tiny islands, local markets, nightlife if you want it, and a cost of living that, for a lot of Americans, is going to feel like a completely different math problem than what they're used to. So the real question becomes, where in the Philippines would you actually want to live? Because picking the Philippines is honestly just step one. Where you actually land is going to completely change what your day-to-day looks like. If your version of paradise is waking up near the water, hopping on a motorbike under a canopy of palm trees, and spending your mornings surfing, Siargao might just be it. It's laid back, it's tropical, and it's become a real magnet for surfers and travelers from all over the world. But island life also means giving up some of the stuff you're used to in a big city, which is where Cebu starts getting interesting. Here you get shopping malls, restaurants, hospitals, actual nightlife, basically the conveniences of city living, while still having incredible beaches and island escapes within easy reach. If you're seriously thinking long-term about living in the Philippines, Cebu might be your best middle ground between tropical and I still want a functioning hospital nearby. Then you've got Palawan. This is the Philippines you've seen on postcards, towering limestone cliffs, turquoise lagoons, hidden beaches, islands that genuinely don't look real. Places like El Nido are hard to top for scenery, but the further off the beaten path you go, the more you're signing up for real, no-frills island living. And then there's Manila. Forget the quiet beaches for a second. This is big city energy. Skyscrapers, massive malls, restaurants, nightlife, traffic, millions of people. It's basically the polar opposite of Siargao. But no matter which version of the Philippines you're picturing, eventually you need the same thing everyone needs, a place to actually call home. And that's where things start getting interesting money-wise. So, how much does it actually cost to put a roof over your head here? This is where it gets good, because depending on where you land, your rent could be shockingly cheap or a lot closer to what you're already paying back home than you'd expect. Let's start with Manila. Want a modern condo in the city? Prices swing hard depending on the neighborhood. I found a furnished one-bedroom listed around 23,000 pesos a month, roughly $400. But step into some of Metro Manila's pricier neighborhoods, and that number climbs fast. Head south to Cebu, though, and your money stretches noticeably further. Based on 2026 rental data, a mid-range 2-bedroom apartment or condo runs somewhere around 25 to 35,000 pesos a month. Call it $450 to $625. And you're still getting a real city, just with the tropics a lot closer than Manila ever gets you. Now say you don't care about skyscrapers at all. You came here for palm trees, a motorbike, and a beach 5 minutes from your door. Somewhere like Siargao or Palawan can absolutely give you that. Just don't assume island living automatically means cheap living. Popular tourist spots can charge a premium, and what you pay really comes down to the type of home, the location, whether it's furnished, and how long you're signing on for. And here's something people forget. Rent is not your whole housing bill. Electricity, water, internet all stack on top. And in a tropical country, running the act every single day can turn electricity into a much bigger chunk of your budget than you were expecting. Still, if you're smart about location, housing alone can be one of the biggest reasons the Philippines feels so affordable. But there's another expense that hits you daily, no matter where you live. Food? Honestly, this might be my favorite part about living here, because if you're willing to eat like an actual local, your money goes far. Walk through any local market or duck into a small neighborhood spot, and you will find grilled chicken, fresh seafood, rice dishes, noodles, tropical fruit everywhere, and Filipino staples like adobo. You genuinely don't need to spend much. A cheap restaurant meal runs around 250 pesos, about $4 or $5, pretty consistently across the country. But if you actually live here, you're probably not eating out for every single meal. Hit up a local market instead. Fresh produce, meat, seafood, rice, and cooking at home is honestly the move if you want your food budget to stay under control. There is a catch though. If you move here and still want to eat exactly like you did back home, things get pricey fast. Imported groceries, specialty items, trendy cafes, Western restaurants, that stuff adds up quickly. And in the more touristy areas, don't expect every meal to be dirt cheap either. So the real advantage isn't that everything here costs basically nothing. It's that you get options. Cheap local meal one day, cook at home the next, splurge on a nice dinner when you're actually in the mood. But okay, once you've eaten, you still have to actually get around. And getting around here is its own adventure. Depending on whether you're in a massive city or on some tiny island, getting around can mean completely different things. In Manila and Cebu, you've probably seen the jeepneys. Loud, colorful, usually cheap, and honestly a huge part of everyday Filipino life for decades now. Buses, trains, taxis, Grab, all available, especially in the bigger cities. Leave the city though, and it's a totally different game. On islands like Siargao, a motorbike or scooter basically becomes your main ride, and honestly, cruising under palm trees with the ocean a few minutes away beats sitting in rush hour traffic any day. Just remember, this is a country made of thousands of islands, so getting from point A to point B sometimes means a ferry, and sometimes it means a flight. Worth factoring that into your budget if you're planning to actually explore. But once you've got transportation figured out, this is where you start to get why people fall in love with living here. Because your days here just hit different. This is really where living here starts feeling completely separate from just visiting. Imagine waking up, grabbing a coffee, jumping on your scooter, and a few minutes later, you're there. No itinerary. No tour guide rushing you along. This is just a random Tuesday. You could spend the morning surfing in Siargao, snorkeling through water so clear it doesn't feel real, chasing waterfalls, diving reefs, or boating out to an island that looks basically untouched. And when you actually live here, you're not trying to cram it all into one 7-day trip. But it's not only about the beaches. Cities like Manila and Cebu bring the malls, restaurants, bars, cafes, real nightlife, while the smaller island communities give you something completely different, slower, more laid back. And then there's the people. Filipino hospitality is genuinely well known, and with English so widely spoken, meeting people and figuring out day-to-day life feels way more approachable for someone coming from the US. But here's the thing, it's really easy to watch footage like this and convince yourself you've found paradise, because sunsets and beaches make for a great video. Power outages, tropical storms, humidity, and traffic? Not so much. As incredible as living here can look, paradise still comes with problems. First up, the weather. This is a tropical country, plain and simple. That means heat, humidity, heavy rain, and storms that can get genuinely powerful. Then, there's infrastructure. In Manila or Cebu, you'll have most of the conveniences you'd expect from a real city. But move to a smaller island, and things shift fast. power interruptions, rougher roads, less transportation, fewer services. That's just part of the island trade-off. And if you're planning to work remotely, there's one thing that matters more than almost anything else: the internet. It's genuinely improved a lot across the country, but reliability still depends heavily on exactly where you plant yourself. Major city? Probably fine. Remote island? Definitely worth checking before you sign that lease. And then there's the adjustment nobody can really put a price tag on. You're moving to a different country. Different customs, different food, different infrastructure, and potentially thousands of miles between you and everyone you love. For some people, that's the whole appeal. For others, it's exactly why they end up going home. So no, the Philippines isn't perfect, but nowhere is. The real question is whether what you get in return actually makes the trade-offs worth it. And to answer that, we need the final number. So, rent, food, transportation, utilities, and actually enjoying your life on top of all that, how much do you really need to live in the Philippines? There's no single answer, so let's break it into 3 different lifestyles. First, the budget version. Simple apartment, mostly local food, cooking at home some of the time, cheap transportation, and you're not blowing every weekend at a resort. Depending on location, I'd plan for roughly $800 to $1,200 a month. Not flashy, but doable if you're actually careful with money. Now let's make it more comfortable. Nicer apartment, AC, solid internet, eating out regularly, using Grab or renting a scooter, going out with friends, still having money left for actual fun. For that, I'd personally budget $1,500 to $2,000 a month, and honestly, that's probably the range I'd want if I were really doing this. But if you want the luxury condo, Western restaurants, frequent nightlife, resort weekends, domestic flights, and you're not sweating every peso, you can easily push past $2,500 a month. Because just like anywhere else, this place can get expensive if you let it. So could you live in a tropical paradise for less than what you're spending back home? Potentially, yeah, but there's still one last question. Would I actually move here? So, would I actually do this? After looking at the housing, the food, the transportation, the lifestyle, and yeah, the downsides too, honestly, I think I would. Not because it's flawless, but if you're after warm weather, ridiculous islands, a slower pace of life, and the chance to make your money go further, the Philippines genuinely delivers. And if you're asking me personally, I'd pick Siargao. But now I want to hear from you. Could you actually see yourself living in the Philippines? And more importantly, where should we try living next? Drop it in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.